Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090 Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all, y'all rocking with me. And for this video, I'm going to be speaking on somebody I've been trying to find for a long time. Now, when I was 18 years old, I was living in Tampa, Florida. I went to jail for carrying a concealed firearm and burglary of a conveyance. So I went to the Hillsborough County Jail, and I was in there for a little bit before I was hit with additional charges: armed burglary, grand theft of a firearm, times 15, grand theft 5,000 and 10,000, a misdemeanor battery that I was already fighting. I got hit with a bunch of charges, right? When I got moved into a dorm, it wasn't my first dorm, I got put inside of the dorm, and this is where I got into my first jail fight, where I actually fought one of my brothers, one of the big homies inside of the jail for the Bloods. Now, when I first went inside of this dorm, like any dorm, I had a sense of not necessarily intimidation, but that nervous, anxious excitement that you get when you walk into something that you have no idea what it's like. You don't know who's going to be in here. You don't know what type of dorm this is going to be. If it's on and popping or if it's relaxed, gambling, hanging out. You don't know what to expect. And being that this was so early on in my incarceration, this was still something that I was overcoming, was getting used to things that I cannot predict. And if you've ever been to Hillsborough County Jail, you know we get shirts that ride up pretty damn high. And if you can see, I got a Superman logo that has a 5 and a star and it says bang bang. I've got MOB, I've got 5 stars. I got a big ass B on my arm. So when I was inside of this dorm, I get approached by somebody and he starts asking questions. What that 5 be about? This, that, and the third. So I'm asking him back, like, what's poppin'? You blood? He's like, nah, but my homies is. We start talking. It turns out that this is Los. And Los was from TC, Town and Country, but he knew who I was around in North Tampa. He actually knew a lot of the Bloods that I knew. And Los was, I want to say 20, 21 at the time. I'm 18 years old, so he's got like 2 years on me. But he tells me, I got brothers inside of the dorm. So now I'm interested because I didn't know. You know what I mean? I just got in here. I'm like, all right, cool. Who are they? So we called somebody over. The intimidation kind of kicked in a little piece when I seen this dude because he caught me off guard. When you go to juvie, face tattoos are not common. You might see a little teardrop or something like that. When you're staying in the hood, there might be a couple of people that kind of went a little heavy on their face. Nothing too crazy. But I got this dude walking up to me. He's got bull horns on his fucking forehead, teardrops in his eyes, M16s across his throat. I'm just like, damn, dude look like he's in here for some fucking bodies. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, I'm like, thank God he's one of mine. Because I ain't trying to go up against somebody that looks like this because I'm still not used to the tattoos. To me, they still stood out. Versus going to prison, you get over it. You start seeing jackasses that scribble all over their face. But when you haven't been around it, it still kind of holds weight a little bit because you're looking at someone like, well, if they would do that to their face, they must not give a fuck. And if they don't give a fuck, they're willing to do shit that I'm not willing to do because I want to go home and he doesn't look like he's going home. So I'm looking at dude like, okay, damn. But this was Chico White. On October 1st, 2012, the victim was given a ride to Chico White when they stopped to pick up Chico White's brother. Chico White pulled a knife and put it to the victim's throat, demanding money, then pushed the victim out of his black BMW like he pressed triangle in Grand Theft Auto. Chico White's brother jumped in the car and started doing donuts around the victim while Chico White beat the shit out of him, taking $500 in his phone. The victim immediately identified Chico White to police, and upon arrest, Chico White's hands matched the description of whooping someone's ass. And I ain't even gonna lie, when we started to talk, we was cool as hell. Like, he got a mad, chilled out vibe. He looked like a white boy, blue eyes. He had golds in his mouth, 2 to the top and like 6 to the bottom, but I think one of them was missing. And you know, he telling me about he got babies with him rocking on the street, little bad females, this and that. We started hanging out. It was no TOH. It was no, hey, yo, duh, who's your big homie, all that gangster pressing. It wasn't like prison. It was just, oh, you a bro, what's up, duh, and we good. Then he tells me that we got another brother in the dorm. Now, if you've seen my interview with Lockdown 23 and 1, you know this story. And if you haven't seen that interview, the other brother in the dorm was named Solo. Solo was a big homie from Queens, New York. I don't know his real name. I never seen him again. I was only around him for a brief amount of time. But him and Chico White, their bunks were in the back right corner. They were double bunks. They slept across from each other. You weren't allowed to go into their section unless you actually lived in that section, unless your bunk was there. So I couldn't just go up in there and, hang out over there. And Solo had a different energy about him than anyone else inside of the dorm. He didn't speak openly. He didn't show emotion. He had a blank, militant face. We had 2 TVs inside of the dorm. We had the Spanish TV and the TV for everybody else. And the Spanish TV, honestly, I watched that more than anything because all the Spanish females on the news station are fine, just badass Latinas everywhere. And the Spanish movies that used to play were the most up-to-date movies. We would just have to read the little subtitles or somebody would translate what we were actually watching and listening to. But Solo only sat at the Spanish TV, and he was Spanish. I'm pretty sure he was Puerto Rican. But like I said, he carried himself differently. He wasn't approachable. He wasn't the type of person you walk up and introduce yourself to. He was somebody that you get presented to. He was somebody that someone is going to introduce you to him. You're not just walking up with your hand out expecting for it to be shaken. Solo demanded respect without saying a damn thing. And that was one of the first times I really got to witness the power of energy inside of a dorm, the power of how you can carry yourself and how everybody is able to read what you're putting out without saying a damn thing. Now, while me and Chico White are sitting down and we're more or less talking about blood shit, watching TV, he gets up and he goes and talks to Solo. And he talks to him and he comes back and he sits down and he doesn't say nothing. I don't know what was said. I'm not going to ask what was said because if he isn't telling me, I'm going to assume I'm not supposed to know. But it gave me a weird feeling in my stomach because I didn't feel I was totally accepted due to the fact that there wasn't much that was done. There wasn't that many questions. It was, where are you from? Who do you know? And that was more or less already answered by Los that knew all my people. I'd never heard of a TOH, a test to hide at this point. I don't know about any of that shit. So I'm sitting here with this uneasy feeling, wondering if Chico White and Solo are plotting something against me. And it was that same day, one of my bros from the street got moved into the dorm. My dog named Kareem. Kareem comes in. He's a black peace stone. We peace up. We're talking. We're hanging out. And we're over on the other side of the dorm, opposite from where the rec door is, in front of the bathrooms just talking. It was at that moment Solo walked up and approached me. And when he approached me, he pushed into my chest. And I was so shocked by the audacity that this man just walked up and pushed into my shit and was telling me to slide out onto the rec yard. So I'm looking at Kareem and I'm just thinking to myself, like, did this motherfucker really just do that? You know what I'm saying? And Kareem's looking like, who the fuck is this? And more or less, we tried to formulate a plan because we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what was going to happen when we walked out on that rec yard, if we're going to get jumped, if we're going to get flipped. All we knew was we had to do it. We were just trying to figure out what is the best way we can go about it because we don't have locks in county. There's no razors in county. We don't have any weapons. It's straight hands inside of here. And another guy, Chico Tony, walks up to us and he's like, hey, Solo want to see y'all boys on the rec yard. And we like, I bet. Chico Tony walks off. So me and Kareem, at this point, we know what we got to do. We walk out there. Solo tells me to tighten up. I catch the wall with Solo and we start fighting. And like I said in the interview with Lockdown 23 and 1, I just remember looking at him and then something flying up. Boom! I got kicked in the face. Solo was the only one in the dorm that had Velcro shoes. Solo had came from the feds or was charged federally or had a federal hold, whatever it was. I found out Solo's charges after the fact, but he was the only one that had shoes. And I felt those shoes hit me in the face. And at that moment, I knew he could fight better than me. But there's nothing I can do. I can't run off. I'm not going to run off. That was never a thought in my mind. So I'm throwing these shits. I made contact. He made contact. You know, I backed up. I turned. I caught the wall. So now I'm in the corner. I can't back up at all. We got in there and we fought. After we fought, Kareem gets in there. He fights. After Kareem fights, we peace up. Peace up means we shook hands. And when we shook hands, Solo made the announcement to everybody that was out there on that rec cage, which was pretty much half the damn dorm, because they all knew something was going to happen. They wanted to see it. He made the announcement that we were his brothers. And if anybody has a fucking problem, we're all going in about each other. And no one said a damn thing. Solo had everybody silent out there. And it was at that moment, I felt the acceptance. I understood he wasn't talking because he wanted to see what I was going to do first. He wanted to apply some pressure. He wanted to see, does this kid have the heart to get in here? But it didn't change a fucking thing. He was still like a statue the whole time. He barely talked. You know what I mean? Like, he was just very militant. That's how he carried himself. He had the book, The 48 Laws of Power. He wanted other people to read it. He wanted people to study it. He wanted us to understand the things that he understood. And his charges, allegedly he was caught with a body in the trunk of his car. He beat the murder charge. He had a firearm charge, and that was the charge that he was fighting inside of the jail. But Chico White was pretty much the whole reason all of this shit happened. And Chico White had stepped to him and told him, look, white homie over there says he's pushing blood, da-da-da. What you want to do? And Solo said, we're going to test him and we're going to rock out. And that is exactly how that situation played out. And I remember speaking about Chico White on Lockdown 23-1 because he asked me, was there other white bloods? And I said there was somebody named Chico White who said he was pop Mexican or something like that. He had Chicano on his back. And this is who I was talking about. But after that fight unfolded, me and Chico White were like this here. We're eating together. We're hanging out. And, you know, he's the one that got me on the workout tip. Because the majority of the dorm, you know, there was no structure. There was no politics. But he would get out there by himself, lay his shirt on the floor, start working out. He's hitting push-ups. He's hitting sit-ups. You know, he's got a six-pack going. He's looking ripped up. And he's prepared to go up the road. He told me he had a carjacking charge. He was facing around 20. I think they offered him 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. And he had already been to prison. So when I started hearing the stories of the youth offender prisons, the TOHs, the buck 50s, the locks and socks, the majority of that information came from Chico White. He was at Brevard back in the day. I believe he was also at Lancaster. He got fired up in the back of his head. He's showing me the scars that he has. And I'm just like, oh shit, like this is where I'm going? Like this is where they're gonna send me? So the majority of the rumors that I was hearing was by one of my own brothers that had already experienced everything before me. And I'm listening to his stories, I'm listening to his advice, his guidance, and he's telling me, look, when you get there, you gotta rock out. They're not gonna care about your history. They're not gonna care about who you know, how long you've known them for. You gotta show them something. You gotta make that name, and when you have that name established, the rest of your bid will be easy. And Chico White ended up getting moved out of the dorm. I don't exactly remember what had happened. I remember Solo had left first. Solo pieced everybody up. He dipped. I never saw Solo again. Chico White pieced everybody up. He dipped. I never saw Chico White again. I had another brother come in. He was telling me about the YOs. He was telling me more or less, hey, you gonna have a T on your tag for Tampa, talking about my DC number. They ended up giving me a fucking C, but I always said C for cherry. But he was telling me about the YOs. He's like, you from Tampa, you gonna be good. Man, Tampa was one of the #1 cities everybody was going against. It was just straight war, straight fucking bloodbath. But I found Chico White on the DOC site, and I was excited the second I seen him. I recognized the tattoos. He looks a little bit older, but shit, we all do. And I saw that he, I believe, got 15 years, but he's gonna be coming home soon. One thing that surprised me though, under alias, you know, wherever they're gonna put whatever your alias is, if the CEOs find out what people call you, they'll put it for your alias. And his said King Diablo. Well, the only time King is gonna be before your name is if you are a Latin king. And I don't know what his affiliation is right now. I know that his affiliation in county was blood, and that on his court paperwork for his carjacking charge, it said that he was a blood. But it is not uncommon for Spanish, Latin, bloods to become kings inside of prison. The Spanish are one of the only groups that really enforce a type of racial politic. And you really only have two sides. You're going to have the Latin kings and you're going to have disciples, whether they're Latin disciples, maniac disciples, Spanish, whatever disciples. You got one side, you got the other side. And it's not uncommon. Some of the hottest rocking Latin kings I know that I met, especially in the youth offender prisons, went in as bloods. And whether they were real, whether they didn't know their shit, so they were like, it's not that big deal if I jump over to this, or whether the racial division inside of the prison, where the blacks being the majority and the YOs targeting everyone, made them want to divert and become Latin kings. I'm not sure if that is his affiliation now. If it is, so be it. But man, shout out to Chico White, bro. And if you see this, you already know it's still love on my side. But hey, it's 1090J. I'm rocking with y'all. Y'all rocking with me. Till next time.